It's time to laugh, learn, and take your photography to the next level with your favorite cowgirls with cameras, Cara, Kim, and Phyllis.
Welcome to the Cowgirls with Cameras podcast. I'm Kim with Kim Beer Photography and Be More Business.
I'm Cara with Fast Horse Photography.
And I'm Phyllis with Phyllis Burchette Photo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see all the shiny faces this morning in the bright daylight savings time.
It's still kind of dark at my house.
I was going to say, it's kind of dark here, too. I bet it's real dark at your house, Kim.
Actually, it's light enough I can see the fence outside my window, so there's that. But yes, this whole time change things always gets me down. But we're not going to talk about that today because we got way more exciting things to talk about. What have you guys been up to for the last whatever it is since we've talked?
I can be quick and easy. We're on our way to spring break, so I have been just running around trying to get last minute photo shoots done. I spent actually a full day in Georgia and Phyllis Estate shooting, and then I've had last minute senior sessions and just the busy work. It's been all edit, respond to clients. That's it, and of course hanging out in the community, our new community.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But you left out something pretty big that you did.
What? That we all did.
That we all did together.
Yes. What did we do?
Art of the Cowgirl.
Oh. Did you? 2 weeks and you've already forgotten the whole experience of being stuck in a windy booth.
I was in the booth most of the week, so it was probably less exciting for me than it was for you guys. It was a great time.
I was okay with her forgetting because I thought, well, good, that'll give me something to talk about.
And then I went and reminded her. Well, I will say Cara has a new superpower. Marcy and Cara both. So Marcy Johnson is our booth babe.
Yeah, me too.
And their new superpower is rock collector and windy material chasers. So it was very windy in Arizona.
We were definitely fighting for our lives, trying to keep brochures on the table and books from flying away. That was wild.
Well, you must have done a good job because I didn't see any out in the wild. Laying around.
Well, yeah, we could have been like marketing where we just send everything flying out into the event. Yeah. But yeah, we held it down. We held the fort down.
Oh, goodness. What about you, Phyllis? What have you been up to?
Art of the Cowgirl.
Yeah.
I've been living Art of the Cowgirl since even a week after we've been home because I've been trying to get some stuff edited and did my newsletter and that was all about Art of the Cowgirl this week. So, just stuff sitting in front of the darn computer. My not favorite thing to do.
Not favorite thing to do for sure. No, it's and particularly here, I don't know about where you guys live, but here it is spring. Like, remember I told you all how much I loved spring peepers and both of you looked at me like I was insane because you have to listen to frogs.
Yeah, did you go home? Were they peeping?
They were peeping. Oh gosh, the other night when I was driving home from my speaking engagement, there's a pond that is in a dip right before my farm. And oh my goodness, my window was down and they were singing loud. And so I feel like spring is definitely on the rise here. My chicken house is about to be delivered in the next couple of weeks. And I'm getting ready to get baby chicks and I just am super excited with lots of farm stuff. But I too have been living all things Art of the Cowgirl. And also within the community as well and getting resources in there. And I have to say, our community is a happening place. Like I get a little ding every time somebody does something in there. And my goodness, the other day when I was doing a speaking engagement, it was very soft, but it was dinging like crazy. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what's going on. What is happening over there? People are having a party and I'm busy.
Have you told our listeners about our community, Kim?
We really
did. We talked.
Then they don't know what we're talking about, do they?
No, we did talk about it a little last episode.
Okay.
We did. I remember discussing it, but we have officially launched at this point. We hadn't officially launched when we had that talk. Yeah. So we have officially launched the community. It is available. You can actually go to the URL cowgirlswithcameras.community, which is really easy because you can just do cowgirlswithcameras.com and add the community part.
Are we going to put a link on the website too, so people can go to the website and get in? Or is that something we hadn't talked about that part?
No, we haven't talked about that, but that's probably another thing on my very endless to-do list that needs to get put up. But truthfully, you can go directly there to cowgirlswithcameras.community and you can take a look around. So there's right now there's 3 levels of membership that you can join at. The first level is a free level. It's called Herd Member Initiate. And that particular level is forever free. And basically what that gets you access to is a set of free courses, which are a lot of things that we have all published previously. Like they're all available in the world. But what's really nice is they're all condensed into one spot. So that makes it worth your while, if nothing else, to be able to access some resources that we have put out publicly. So you get free courses, and then you get an area of the community where you can introduce yourself, you can learn more about Cowgirls with Cameras, you can learn about our events. We do put very timely announcements in there. And then on a fairly regular basis, we're going to host snappy hours for that free membership community. You're welcome to come. They're light discussions. We actually had our very first one this last week. And what was interesting was 100% of the people who RSVP'd showed up.
I feel like that never happens.
No, it's so in my world where I do a tremendous number of online classes, like at least 2 a week, I'm doing some type of an online class somewhere. I can tell you my show up rate is somewhere between 40 and 50%. So it was there's a whole story there if you want to ask us about that particular first one, because I caused Cara a tremendous amount of stress where this thing was concerned.
I would like to say I felt like I managed the stress level well.
You did well.
But when you got there, the text message that I sent you was something like, "Oh, thank God you made it."
I think the direct quote was "Thank baby Jesus."
Oh, that's what it was.
Yes. So anyway, yes, I did put some gray hairs on Cara's head through some misscheduling and bad coastal math. However, it was a huge success, and we had people on that really. It was a very good conversation, and we actually learned a lot and enjoyed it quite a bit to be able to have that experience. So even at the free level, you're going to have access to some live information. Now, if you decide to move up to the next level, which is rookie, what that does is that adds a 8-hour, roughly, it's between 7 and 8 hours of educational content around beginning equine photography. So it's like a back to the basics boot camp kind of course on equine photography that starts you at understanding what gear you need to upgrade from like using your cell phone or that camera, fixed lens camera, up to a DSLR or mirrorless camera body, and understanding the gear that's necessary for equine photography, all of the way through understanding exposure and up into editing and bonus content from all 3 of us. So you've got a really good educational resource if you need a reminder or if you're just brand new to equine photography and are wanting to get out there. And it's funny, I put quizzes in there, and apparently I made my quizzes like hard enough that people actually have to think about it. I've had some comments about my quizzes, but it does quiz you on your knowledge. Like, you're going to pass, my friend, because there's no failing. But so that's available. And that particular one for right now is $29. It's going to go up very shortly to $97. So if you want to get in at this level, you're going to have to kind of get on it because it's at $29 right now. So that gets you that additional and that forever. and then the free forever part. And then if you want to become one of our founding herd members, you do get a free week trial, and that gets you access to the really good stuff, which includes members only social gatherings, as well as advanced courses, our resource barn, which is growing rapidly to have a lot of really good resources. We've all contributed resources to that, where there's PDFs to download and videos to watch, and a lot of great information there. And you can earn badges, which I understand is a happy place for a lot of people. I've had a lot of interesting badge requests lately.
Well, I was going to say, I heard a couple people commenting that they were waiting on badges. Like, I am new to the community and I know I have badges coming.
Yes, so I do.
You're going to have to get on badge patrol again.
I am. I'm going to have to be. I'm the official badge lady. You get a badge and you get a badge and you get a badge. And well, you get to earn your badges. So it's great. And I think the founding herd member, we've made it affordable for people, and it just really gives you an opportunity to be able to further build the relationships you've started, and also meet new people and build other relationships, whether you're just looking for a buddy to go shoot with, or whether you're looking for somebody to joint venture with or network with for other possibilities.
And there, just to confirm, there is a 1 week free trial for that?
There is.
One? Okay.
Yep. You can dip your toe in and take a look around, but you have a week to do it. And then after that, it's $149 for a year. So it's very reasonably priced.
Or $19 a month.
Or $19 a month, yes.
And then do you want to give the website one more time, just because you've given so much great info? People who might have been like, I don't know about this, might be like, okay, now I need it.
Yep, super simple, cowgirlswithcameras.community. So a very easy URL to remember and to go see, and you can find all 3 packages right there. And we look forward to seeing you in the community, and can't wait till you're on there, coming in, talking with us, and getting to know us, and letting us get to know you, and learning about all the things photography and Cowgirls with Cameras.
And also, on another note, can I take a moment just to say a big thank you to the wonderful group of ladies that joined us for the photography clinic at Art of the Cowgirl? And it was a wonderful group. I mean, we always have great groups, but this group really played well with each other, and it was just, and it's amazing how many great friendships have been formed already from that group. So, and they've all joined
advice sharing, across the board. Like I wasn't even in the educational aspects of it, but just hearing people chatting at the booth and sharing knowledge was. I mean, that's what we're all about. Like that just felt really like a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. It's great that everybody shares and has connected, and it's just wonderful. I don't know. I just really love this group. So I just wanted to say that. And of course, thank you to everybody that stopped by our booth and checked out the community and other things that we have to offer. You guys books and everything. So that was great too. It was a good. Art of the Cowgirl was at a new venue this year with Rancho Rio. So big shout out to Rancho Rio. They did a great job. Of course, there's a few things that need to be worked on, but that's, it was a new event. So, I think everybody
it was nice to see people from Queen Creek too, come over to Wickenburg and then come over and say hello. And I was like, I remember you from, the other location. Yeah. So it was nice to see that.
Yep. And I have to say, I really did enjoy it. It kind of got me back to my roots of shooting raining. And I really loved having the outdoor arena where I didn't have to have strobe lights.
Much prettier to shoot out, wasn't it?
Yes. And I have lots of beautiful photos from it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I actually went and shot in the arena this year, which I hardly ever do.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks again to Art of the Cowgirl for having us back to host the.
Big shout out to you, my friend.
Yep.
So,
all right.
Yes. And Art of the Cowgirl, just as a reminder, Art of the Cowgirl Foundation really supports women in arts, and arts being not just painting, photography, leather work kind of stuff, but in the art of horsemanship, in the art of stock stockwomanship. So if you have some donations that you're looking to, so a nonprofit that you'd like to donate to, please check out Art of the Cowgirl Foundation because they're really worthy of things. All right. Are we ready to dive into this week's topic? Because we want to create a standout client experience. Now, we all want to create a standout client experience for our community and for what we do and with our own clients. But part of establishing yourself as a photographer is establishing the experience that your clients have. And I don't think this ever rung more true for me than what I overheard in a conversation of one of my clients saying to someone else. So it happened to be at an event where I was there presenting, and it was an equine type event. I was talking about business, but one of my photography clients was there, and one of their friends was saying something about needing photographs. And I was out of earshot, just barely in earshot to catch the conversation. And the one woman says, Kim is an amazing photographer. She does a really good job with her images, but I have to tell you the best part of it all, and the reason you definitely want to have her come to your farm, is because she's just so much fun to work with. I laughed, I smiled, she made me feel comfortable the entire time, and I don't like having my picture taken, and it was a super positive experience. And I'm like, go Kim, yay.
Yeah.
So that's the type of experience.
You're doing something right.
Yeah. And ages ago, we had a wonderful young woman who, you'll have to remind me of her name, come on the Business Animal. And she said, branding is the conversation that people have about you when you're not in the room. And that person who was talking, she didn't know I was standing just right on the other side of a curtain, able to hear what she was saying. But it was a huge part of me knowing that I was on the right track in creating that client experience. So that's what our topic is for today. And it's super important. And I'm going to tell you, even if you're a hobby photographer and you go, oh, this really doesn't matter to me because I'm not selling anybody images, hold up a second, because if you're doing photography for other people as a hobby, like you're going out there and doing images of someone else, or images that are requested by somebody else, or for that matter, even yourself, I mean, you're the client in that case, that experience is important. And I think you want to bring your best game, right, to it.
Oh yeah, even as a hobby photographer, you still have an expectation to create an experience. You're going to want to have access to people, and that person again potentially to work with, to create art, or maybe they're friends. And if you don't create experience, how do they talk about you, and how do they positively refer you for other work, even as a hobby photographer? Or maybe you're just creating reference images for your art. You still have to create experience that's positive.
Absolutely. And even when you think about like some of the entities that Phyllis works with, that's creating experience too, right? You have to create an experience when you're turning in images for book covers or whatever it is that you do. You're creating an experience for other people.
Whatever it is that I do.
We're not really sure, Phyllis.
We're never sure what Phyllis does exactly, but
we know she has to do something with experience. We're not sure.
She has to create a good client experience. All right. So we're breaking this down into 3 parts today. I'm going to talk about getting to know your clients because, heck, you can't create an experience for somebody if you don't know who they are or what their wants or needs are. So I have some unique ways to look at that. And then Phyllis is going to talk about before the session, like clear communication and talking about how to start thinking about setting up the session. And then Cara is going to fill us in for how to carry that experience beyond the session, because the experience doesn't begin and end with the photography. It begins with their initial contact with you, and then it goes all of the way through their forever loyalty experience with your business and with you. So getting to know your clients, a couple of logistic things that I think you need to understand. One of those is, what is a target market? So when I teach business classes, I spend a lot of time helping people determine who their target markets are. So everybody, although everyone needs photography in their lives, you have a specific person that you work with. And for most of us, that's going to include the commonality of horses or some type of Western ranch life kind of a situation. Most likely horses, right? So that's a niche. So there's photographers who do everything from weddings, senior portraits. Not everybody photographs horses. And then you can break that down further into what discipline do you work with? So a lot of us work with the Western discipline. And then there's different aspects to the Western discipline. So see what I mean? You can drill down into your niche or niche, depending on where you are in the country and how you want to say that word. But you're drilling down and understanding exactly who you are serving. And sometimes, like for me, that was commercial clients who have a totally different set of needs and desires than, let's say, a senior portrait client or a book cover client or an interior design client. Or somebody who wants to have an entire like legacy family session. So there's all kinds of different target markets that you can take a look at. Some businesses serve more than one target market. So for each of your target markets, you're going to want to know who that customer is for that specific target market. So when you market directly to them, and create the experience, you can create it specifically for that target market. So I know a lot of you work with more than one type of person. Some of you have several. For our Cowgirls with Cameras, we actually have 5 communities that we serve. We have 5 different target markets. And we tailor the experience to each of those target markets. Now, some target markets will share in the same experience and others will create experiences just for that target market. So get to know who your target market is. If that still is a little fuzzy for you, let me give you a non-photography example. I guess it could be a photography example, but a wholesale versus a retail client. That's usually the easiest way to understand it. You don't have the same conversation when you're selling direct to a consumer as you would have to sell to a business owner who is going to resell what it is that you have to sell. So start with that. Start defining your target market. The next thing you want to take a look at is, what do I need to know about these people? How can I find out the absolute most information about who they are, what they need, and what do they expect? And then how can you build on that to make it even better? So I have a list of things that I encourage people to get to know about their customers. And so first of all, there's demographics. And to me, this is the least thing you need to understand about your customers. Usually it has to do with age, gender, education, income level, location. Those all do affect customer experience. A senior portrait session girl is going to, or boy, is going to have a different expectation than an adult woman wanting photos with her horse, right? So there's if you work with the senior, you need to understand the current trends and you need to understand what other photographers are delivering. Then you need to understand how to make that better. You also need to clearly understand how to communicate with them, which is what Phyllis is going to talk about here in a moment. So age, gender, education, income level, and location all impact how you want to craft that experience. Then different subsets or different niches have different personality traits that you need to know about. Style, attitude, their cultural connections, those are all things that you need to take a look at for your specific target market in your niche. Then the next thing I like to look at is more intrinsic traits. And this is a place where I feel sometimes like we feel like we're being very exclusive in some ways. Like some people get really nervous about being too exclusive here. But I always like to know these things about my customers because it helps me be able to better craft the experience to be specific to them. And those intrinsic traits are things like values, vision, desires, motivations. And those are things that people share. And when you can hit an experience that ticks those boxes for your clients, you've really gotten onto something. And then finally, understanding who they are around also helps you craft the perfect experience for them. So I also look at another category called affiliations. So groups, organizations, social channels, networks that they belong in or that they frequent also give you a really good idea about how to craft an experience exactly for them. So those 4 things that I'm looking at are demographics, personality, intrinsic traits, and affiliations. So that helps me better craft that experience. Where do you get this information is usually the next question that everybody says, oh, that's great, but how do I learn that? So there's several ways that you can research. So one of those ways is to simply ask people, like find people that you believe either you know are because you've served them or you believe are in your target market and interview them. Ask them questions. Ask them about their motivations. Ask them about their values. Ask them the questions that you need to know to find out the appropriate demographic information that you couldn't guess on your own. So take some time, interview them, ask them what they expect in an experience from you or from a business like yours. You can do polls and surveys. I don't think polls and surveys are effective as sitting down and interviewing someone. Honestly, you can interview 3 people that are either potential customers or customers of yours and probably get 50 times the information that you would get from 100 people answering a poll. Because if you will sit and listen to your customers talk, they'll tell you exactly how to craft that experience or where you're doing it right or what you could do better. And that takes a little humbling from your end, but it's really worth your effort. And sometimes you walk out of those going, wow, now I really do know why I do this because that was an amazing experience. So highly recommend doing an interview. The other place that you can go to get information is at the library. So I actually speak for one of the libraries in Kansas City. It's Mid-Continent Public Library. And their programs are available nationwide. The organization I speak for is called Square One. And uniquely in Kansas City, and let me tell you, he's duplicated across the world. We have a wonderful resource librarian named Kelly Head. And Kelly has access to these databases that the general public does not through the library. And he is like an expert in helping you find information about specific things with like, especially the demographic, income level, concentrations, affiliations, like all of the things I talked about, he can help you understand better about your target market. Trust me, there are lots of corporations, large ones, who have funded research that will help you understand your customers better. So go to your local library and ask if that library has a resource librarian. And if they don't, if the local, another connected library does. So highly recommend the resource librarian. I call them the special unicorns of the library. And then the final piece of advice I have is to create a persona, because when you're crafting your customer experience, having a persona that you can craft that experience for, so a representation of kind of the amalgamation of all of your customers really does help you be able to do that more effectively. And personas are relatively easy to create. What you're looking for is to create an actual, like, fictional human, give her a name or him a name, and then give them a backstory and give them personality traits, their values, their demographics. And then when you're crafting your experience, think about that individual and how could you make it perfect for them. But because you used sort of a accumulation of all of the knowledge that you have about your target market, you're able to hit a lot of the notes that your customers are looking for. And that's my 2 cents.
That was a good 2 cents.
That was more than 2 cents.
That was a whole podcast episode we could have done on its own. It's amazing.
Yeah, really.
Kara's always thinking of ways that I could take my little piece and expand it to a whole podcast episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be like on your own. Well, you do one on your own.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a podcast and I teach these classes all of the time.
I was going to say, I know we've done business animal episodes on that one.
Yes. But it is encapsulated here. I mean,
Yeah.
I love
All
that.
right, Phyllis, you want to talk about the experience before the session?
I was just thinking how much I love that word encapsulated.
Encapsulate. I threw out some big one, amalgamation. It's a big word day.
It's way too early for that.
Okay, it's my turn, so this is going to be dumbed down.
Oh, are we going back to 5th grade level?
Yeah, we're going back to well, maybe 8th grade. I don't know. I'm just going to talk about the experience before. Well, it begins before the session. Actually, it begins from your very first contact with your client. And I think there's one big word I'm going to give, or a big advice I'm going to give for anybody wanting to work with clients in any way, shape, or form, is communication. And clear communication is really, really important. I learned that early on. Be sure to address and answer any questions that your clients may have by responding to them very promptly. Or I would even set an auto response on your email or messages to let them know that you'll get back to them in a specific amount of time. If you only want to be contacted during specific hours, I would also let them know what those hours are. If there's a specific form of communication that works best for you, I would also let them know that. If it's best for email or text or call, let them know that, so that you are both communicating in the same way. Don't just send messages through Facebook Messenger or Instagram. I would highly suggest that you use email or a text or a call. Always send reminders about the details of the shoot. This includes the time, location, directions, your contact information, and even any contingency plans should there be bad weather that comes up. I think a big one is to make sure that what you're offering to your client is made very clear. And of course, this is by communication. This includes your pricing information, booking information, the number of images that they're going to be included, as well as any expected turnaround time for deliverables. Be sure that you've covered all this in your contract and have it signed prior to the session, and any deposits paid up front, of course. I personally, when I was doing portrait work, always meet with a person like in person. I like to actually meet them maybe at a coffee shop or something like that, and sit down and get acquainted with them, or on a Zoom call if that won't work, and prepare your client for their upcoming sessions. And this is always to discuss their expectations for the shoot. You need to know that you're both on the same page. Know what your clients are hoping to achieve from the session with images that you're trying to create for them. They chose you because they like your work. They're hoping to replicate some of the beautiful results that they've seen in your portfolio or maybe on social media. And ask your clients to send you some examples, or if you're meeting in person, to bring some examples of your work. Not someone else's work, but your work that they especially like, because that's why they're hiring you, is because they like your work. Is there any specific shots that they like? Maybe create a shot list because you'll want to list all the shots, the poses, or any combinations requested by the client, along with maybe some ideas of your own. Now, sometimes I used to, and I think Cara does the same thing, maybe do a Pinterest board. I don't mind using poses, and it's so great now that Cara has her posing book. You might even have them look at that to see if there's poses in her book that they might like to do. I know people that are bringing their posing book along with them to Cara and Bessie's posing book along with them to their sessions to use.
That is so true.
Yes. So, but But doing all this shows that you care about what they hope to achieve in their session, and that you're both working toward the same goal. And this is going to make your clients even more comfortable and relaxed with you, and their images are going to turn out so much better because of that relationship they have with you. And you can get all this done by just plain communication. Also, you can offer before the session, you can offer either a digital or printed, like a prep sheet, to provide your clients with tips based on the type of photo shoot that they have scheduled. Before the session checklist, I think, is always helpful. Tips such as how to prepare the horse. That's a big one for me. Even people that show horses, sometimes it amazes me the things that they don't think about before a shoot, before you get there, to have their horse ready. The clothing to wear, things to have on hand for both the horse and the rider. This is just another way to help clients come prepared for the session by providing them with a list of overall expectations for the photo shoot. Maybe even an outline or a schedule of how the shoot will take place step by step is also helpful for the client. And even for yourself, for that matter. If possible, I like to know my location beforehand. If you can't get there, you can use Google Earth, look at different apps to look at the light and the backgrounds maybe. If you're shooting on a location, make sure that you have calculated travel time and include a buffer just in case, like for traffic or anything that might come up. In addition, double check the availability of locations that you've selected if it's not a place that you regularly use. Always have a backup plan. Anytime you're shooting outdoors, it's essential to have a backup plan in case of bad weather. We know how that is. We all know how that is. I would communicate this at the time of booking and in your follow-up communication, and let your clients know that I think that clients knowing that you have a contingency plans provides even more assurance that they're in good hands. They know that you're thinking ahead of time, which I think is a really good point. Cara asked me about a talking point that have I ever gone an extra mile before a session? And later the client told me how much they appreciate it. I had to think back because it's been a while since I've done paid photo. Well, I'm still doing a few farm calls, but I'm not doing that much actual portrait work per se. But years ago, I was booked by a brand new client that I had never done any work for before. I'd never even met him. It was going to be a pretty big job, and I wasn't familiar with the shoot location or their farm. It was going to be at their farm because it was a farm call. Thankfully, I was able to go visit and scout prior to the scheduled session, which was very helpful to know about my backgrounds, where I could put their sell horses and have a clean background, and just how the light was going to fall in different areas. This client was so appreciative, and I still remember this. They sent me a really sweet card and a really nice tip for my trouble when the final invoice was paid. I thought that was really nice. And it's like Kim said, it's all about your persona and leaving that client experience and leaving them with a good impression. So, yep. Communication.
I think the biggest thing you shared here that you spoke about here was like all the extra stuff that you do to make sure that they have the best experience possible. And that, to me, like one of the things that kind of jumps out at me here is when you're talking about like helping your client prepare for the session. And I personally am definitely a photographer that, like, I'm not meeting you for the first time the morning of your shoot when we arrive at location.
Right.
Like, we've had many conversations prior. We've usually met in person at least once prior to that experience. And that, to me, is really important, because when you think about information that you need to relay, there can be a lot of information overload. And so one of the ways that I deal with that, which you've alluded here to, is I get that information to them in more than one way. So the very first phone call, we're having that conversation. You know, that I call that my call where I'm determining if they're a good fit for my business. And then when we meet in person, we're having the same conversation in more detail, you know, and then they get follow-up emails, because that's a lot to go. You know, you're in person and you're meeting the horse and you're looking at the location and you're giving them all that information. That's so much information at once. So then they get the information trickled to them between that appointment and the session, it's the same information, but it's trickled to them in a written form, in digestible pieces that they can then really put to work. And then you're checking in on them and you're following up with them leading up to the session. That's experience to me. And that, some of that goes back to me, professionalism that we talked about in our last episode. But I think that the experience piece of that, and when you have a client that is sending you thank you cards and giving you tips, you know that you created that for them because they felt really supported throughout the whole process. Now, is that experience for every single person? Probably not. There's going to be some people that feel super confident and they can show up day one and meet their photographer and get their shoot done. And, they want a digital file and then they're good. But that's, that kind of comes down to your personal preference and what kind of experience you want to give your client. But for me, I think this piece is huge. And I think you laid that out really nicely.
I agree. And years ago when I shot weddings, I did a small stint in my career as a wedding photographer. The procedure and policies that I went through in the contract and then the shot list, I actually had this really detailed planning session I did with the bride and groom. And also I had another call with mother of the bride because they usually have a lot of really big expectations, like personally about what they needed, because that is not an argument you want to have on the day of the wedding as the photographer. But I really went overboard, and I am not an over preparer. Ask Phyllis and Cara. I do not over prepare for anything. But when it came to weddings, I over prepared because I knew that was what my client expectation was. And I think understanding and considering those expectations helps mold what you want to do with your communication, with the contract. And you need to teach your clients how to treat you. Like, you need to teach them what is right in the way to be around a photographer. And good communication skills, everything that Phyllis said, is training your client to have their own best experience because you're showing them the way. Even if you're a hobby photographer who is shooting for your cousin, you still need to show them the way. And the better you are at leadership, the better that experience is going to turn out for both you and them.
That's huge. Like, setting expectation and establishing that from the onset, that helps your client have a good experience, because they know from the beginning what the expectation is and what they can expect from you and what you expect from them. So they're not thinking that something else is going to happen that doesn't end up happening. Yeah. And then they have a level of disappointment. But when the expectation is very clear and then all of that has been met, they know that they're like, check, check, check. We did it all. Yep. So, I mean, I had a great example recently. I had a senior session and we had perfect weather planned and we had a checklist of things we were going to accomplish. And then these clouds rolled in out of nowhere, which happens in Florida sometimes. And the weather was just crap. And there was no way we were going to finish her shoot, which she wanted to finish it with barrel racing, and super low light conditions. I'm like, I might as well have been shooting in a covered arena. It was so dark outside and rainy. And so I felt like I had to make a decision. How do I keep the feeling and the expectations met? So even though the session was an hour away, I went ahead and gave them a second shoot date. And we put the stuff that we didn't get to accomplish in there that I knew didn't require hair and makeup and all the extra prep onto that second day. So they got more than the expectation. Mm-hmm. And I just, I was making sure everyone felt really good about that. So yeah, I mean, that whole thing about like creating the expectation and setting the boundaries, people can know that they walk away with expectations met. So that's huge.
Yeah, I think just like you said, I think making sure you're both on the same page was always a really big one for me. Making sure that I knew exactly what they wanted from me, and that was so important. And the best way to achieve that, like Kim said, is communicate. You gotta talk to people in different, and like you said, you may have to talk to them in several different ways, through different mediums too. So
absolutely. I'm going to add one more thing. for those of you working with commercial clients, well, for those of you working with anybody, you need to communicate, but you also need to listen because your clients will tell you where you're going to screw up. Like they'll tell you what their expectations are. And if you don't communicate, if you can't meet that, or if that's not part of your ability or your way of doing things, you need to let them know up front, because generally that will stop that from becoming a disappointment. But with your commercial clients, I think it's extra necessary to talk with them about their goals. Like, what is their intention and what are they trying to accomplish here? Because although it's to me, it's sort of self-evident when you're photographing a senior, they want senior photos, right? But when you're working with a corporate client or you're working with a commercial client, sometimes their motives aren't always as clear, and you need to establish that ahead of time. And again, just like Phyllis said, really good communication, and communication goes two ways. It is about speaking and imparting information. And it's also about sitting and listening and asking the right questions. So all really good stuff here.
Yeah. Even working with a commercial client, I did some work for Tractor Supply years ago, and they basically, I only dealt with the marketing firm, and they were like, they gave me free reign. But even then, even though they give you free reign,
yeah,
that's like a death sentence.
Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
That's the moment when I go, okay, that's great. I love having a creative license, but you need to give me some guardrails.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Give me some parameters here. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what are your goals? That's the easiest question to ask. What is your goals? And,
or what are you going to do with these pictures? Like, how would they be used? What's the messaging intent? That is so huge.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the after the session. So how to keep the magic going, how to keep the experience going after the session. Because I think it's really easy to just say, okay, the pictures have been, completed. We're done from here. They're kind of trapped in my web because I have their images, and experience can now die. That's not how that works. So
no.
So the first thing I want to ask people that are listening, and you guys as well, think about people who you have hired. Like, I have a couple examples. I hired a guy to pressure wash my front last year. It's time to pressure wash again. I can't remember who I hired for the life of me. And there's 900 pressure washer people out there that I could hire. But I want the guy that I hired last time. He did a good job, right? And his price point was, but I can't remember who it was. So
the front of what? Like the front
my house,
of you?
Like my house, my driveway, my stairs, because we get a lot of like green algae stuff all over the house and stuff. So anyway, so I think about my photography business that same way, because we think we create this like incredible experience and everybody was happy. And then when they need the service again, they're going to remember us. But that isn't how it works most of the time. Like, I think they have good intentions. Like, I have really good intentions to figure out who that guy was and then hire him again. But I might just go the easy route. And the next one that pops up when I hit Google, the first one that pops up, I'm going to hire because it's easy and I don't have time to look for the invoice in my emails, right? So that happens with photographers too. And I see this when I see like those Facebook messages where they're like, looking for a photographer that can photograph horses. I'll have people, like tons of people recommend to me, but sometimes they're like, swift horse, or they'll say like something about faster horses, or they are trying to recommend me, but they can't remember the name of my business. So, and these are people that I felt like I had a really good connection with, that I was like, for sure, they're going to hire me again when their next kid graduates, So I want for photographers to think about that example when they think about keeping their clients and the next steps. So, so I'm going to encourage photographers to start by making the image delivery process feel special. And there are ways that you can do that. And the first way is to avoid the here's your link, bye approach. Yeah. Because a lot of people will be like, here's your link. And then they're like, see ya, like that's the end of it. Even though we know we're sitting here chewing our nails like, ooh, I hope they sent me an email saying they like the pictures. Like, how do we know, right? So for me, there are a lot of ways that you can, make that delivery process feel really good. That is beyond sending a gallery link with no context or excitement that just feels really impersonal. So the first is if you are someone that wants to send a gallery link, which I know a lot of photographers do that. Like the images are done, here they are. Here's a gallery link for you to do what you want with it. Send a personalized email. It's literally the least you can do. It's like the simplest thing you could do is make the email personal. Something about their horse, the experience, how much fun they had, a funny story from the shoot, anything to make it personal. You can take it a step more by sending them a video message. Like, hey, here's how to get through your gallery. I want to show you how to click on this to select your favorites. And if you want to order something, here's how you can do that. Like create a personal video for them. Just something that's kind of heartfelt, walking them through their gallery. Another way that you can make that experience feel good is do a couple sneak peeks or some teasers. You can build anticipation by sending one of your favorite images before the gallery is actually ready. I do this sometimes through a social media post, but if you don't like to do that online, then send them a quick text with the picture and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Look at this beautiful image. Just build the excitement. I do this even when I have artwork created for someone. I'll have the company send me like a behind the scenes video or a picture of it being worked on. I'll send that to my client in advance to be like, oh my goodness, look at it. It's being made. How cool to get to see your artwork being made. And they love it. They love it. So then another way that I work with clients after the fact is I actually do a viewing experience for them. So I love to do this. I love to offer an in-person or even virtual viewing where we guide through their images. I set it to music, which really enhances emotion. And we go through their images one at a time and we make selections and I just really kind of guide them through the whole process. My clients that have hired me love this process. And I don't know if some of them have ever done it before, but they're all happy with getting to view their images that way and have that personal touch. And the last little thing I have in this particular section is think about when you send them their images or when you deliver their images to them, can you gift them something? Is there a way to make a small gift that's appropriate for the purchase? It could be something as simple as a thank you print, that's going to make a lasting impression. You could do a personal card with an image from their session on it, thanking them. I think that's really important. I keep tabs on images that they love. So when they're in their viewing appointment, they're going through, they're making selections, they're making art purchases. If there's a couple that they're like, oh, I really love that one, but we have to narrow it down. We have a budget. I'll keep tabs in my mind on that one that they got away. And often that's what I'll send them as their special gift. It'll either be a note card or it might be a curved metal, or if it's a really big sale, it might be a bigger piece of art for them, but it's with that image and it's a huge surprise. So the second way that you can really enhance the experience after the session is by helping your clients get their photos off their phones, off their computer and onto their walls. This matters because your clients don't always know what to do with their pictures. It's our job as photographers to guide them towards displaying their photos, in a beautiful way. So I think the common client mindset around this is, I love these pictures, but what the heck do I do with them now? Right? I have them, but what do I do with them now? So if you can think, if you can get your clients to think beyond a digital gallery, that's really good because otherwise they might never print their images. So I like to help them transform their digital images into actual art. So the first way that I do that is I educate my clients on their options. And this, you start this conversation way before the session. For me, this starts with my marketing, but it might also happen during our first conversations. You introduce them to prints and albums and custom products. So for me, when I have the first interaction, one of the ways that I do this is I'll say, so how do you plan to use the images we create together? And that's how I start that conversation. I ask that question and then we go from there. And a lot of times they'll say, well, we'd probably like to have, announcements made, or we'd like to have something on the wall. And that's when I start to talk to them about like what that could look like. and we're having a conversation about how they're going to use their pictures. You can also use mock-ups as a way to show them how to use their images. So you could use a software program. There's lots of great softwares out there. Shoot and Share, Pro Select. You can even use Canva to show them how their images would look on their walls in their home. You want to make it as easy as possible. So when you're thinking about products that you offer, really curate your product collections down so it's not super overwhelming for them to make decisions. I know photographers that will only offer a single product. They only offer canvases, for example. Makes it super easy. Their clients know what they're going to get, and it's just a matter of selecting the images to go on the canvas. And then the last little piece around helping clients get their photos off their phones and onto their walls is you want to create a bit of an urgency. So they need to have an ordering deadline or offer limited time specials. One of the ways that I do this is I set the expectation from the very beginning that they will be placing their order at their viewing appointment, that's when they do that. And I remind them of that several times. So the third thing that you can do after the session is that really comes down to the power of follow-up and post appreciation. So this matters because a little extra effort after the session can really turn a one-time client into a lifelong fan of your business. So here's some ways to keep the relationship alive after the session. The first thing, I always send a thank you message after the session. Usually this is a couple weeks out after their artwork has been delivered. I'll do a handwritten note, and I will usually include some of my business cards, just a way to kind of be back in their front of them again. And maybe they're thinking about friends that might be interested and they have my cards. I also like to always check in on their order. So if they've ordered prints or albums from an online system, I want to make sure that they arrived and that everything is in good shape. If I hand deliver their art products, they're usually wrapped up. And a lot of times I will let them have that unwrapping experience without me because they're usually waiting on someone to get home. So I will then follow up that evening or the next morning and just check in. How did it go when you were unwrapping everything? Do you have any questions? Just making sure everything arrived in good shape. And then I do like to deliver their products to their home, to their office, or to their barn. And I will say, if you can get your clients to let you deliver things to the barn, that's kind of a bonus because you have the opportunity to be introduced to some of their horse friends while you're there. So if that comes up, it's not a bad thing, but it's just think of it as another opportunity. I also like to feature them on social media. So I'll do a shout out to them with permission and kind of celebrate their story. So that might be sharing some of their images and just kind of talk about how the experience went. I oftentimes will do a blog post about their session and share that with them. I will also ask them to leave a testimonial. So that's just another connection that we've made. Hey, would you be willing to leave a testimonial about your experience working with me? Here's links to do that. Make it super easy. And then I always like to encourage future sessions. So I might check in and mention, hey, I understand you've got, your horse riding daughter that's graduating in 2 years. I'll check in with her about that and ask how things are going. Could be in anniversaries. If I'm shooting someone that's graduating and then I see that they're pregnant, I might be like, oh, it's time would you like to do pictures with your baby bump with your horses? So we're always looking for ways to come back into their lives during those special life events. Okay. And then the last thing, because I know this episode's running longer than most of our episodes. You've got to be able to figure out how to turn happy clients into repeat clients. So this comes back to that example I gave at the beginning. I was a very happy client of my pressure washer guy, but now I can't. I want to be a repeat client, but I can't remember who he is. So this matters because the best clients are the ones who keep coming back and they bring their friends with them. This is very true. So how do we keep clients engaged long-term? So the first way that I do this, I like to stay visible in their world. So I'll stay visible on social media, for example. I will actively engage with their social media posts. I will comment on their life updates, just reminding them that I'm still there, congratulate them on things as things come up. Start a VIP list or a referral program so that you can reward your repeat clients. with early access to special promos or special discounts or, priority scheduling. Like I know my spring scheduling is very limited. So a lot of times I'll send out an email list to my favorite clients first to see if they want those spots before I release that to the rest of the world. Another example of this is I ran a promo this year. I really thought to myself, okay, I have 10 spots that I need to book. How do I book them with people that I actually want to work with? So I went back through my list and picked my top paying clients for the last 2 years and the people that I liked working with that felt like a really good fit. So they had to meet those 2 criteria. I sent them a special promo for hair and makeup included with their session if they booked by a certain date. I filled 8 of the 10 sessions that way with my favorite people. So I knew I was working with people that understood my process, understood the expectation of artwork purchase, and I like to work with them. So that was a really good boon for me. Okay, so then create ongoing touch points so you can add them to your email list, send them a holiday card, and just be out in the world recognizing their wins, when they're happening. Be it someone that they see regularly. And then the last thing is, I'm calling it surprise and delight. Send a 1 year later check-in email with their favorite session image attached, or create, that I already mentioned that special promo. But I started this last year where I would look back and I would say, it's been a year since your session. I was going through the images and this is still one of my favorites from the session. How are you guys doing? How is your horse doing? And honestly, it's fun to know. But there's strategy behind that, right? It's been a year. They might be about ready to do those family portraits again. And here I am popping in their inbox. So they're not like my poor pressure washer guy who can't be found, right? Okay, that was a lot, but I think it's really good stuff that people can use right away.
Really good stuff.
I think this whole particular episode was like cram packed with really good stuff.
It really was.
we packed it in. So if you had to take 2 hitches to get through it, congratulations, you've made it.
Well, now you can watch it on YouTube and you can listen to it in your car. So, you're like,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, you got options.
You've got options out there. No, I think all of the things that you mentioned are fantastic. And I do think that the connection that you keep with your clients moving on, just to remind everybody that return clients spend about 70% more, and you don't have to spend a lot of investment making them. And it's so much easier. They're so much easier to work with because you don't have to train them. They're already trained.
Already been trained.
Yeah, so you can do something like give them hair and makeup. And Cara talked a lot about things in context of being a portrait photographer, but all the same principles work with your commercial clients. They work with every single type of client that you've got out there. So don't think that the things that she said are just attributable to the portrait client or in-person sales. It works for every type of photographer out there. You can modify every suggestion that she gave into being something that you can utilize with your clients.
Awesome. All right. Well, we did it. This is one of our longest episodes we've had in a while, but I think it was jam-packed full of good stuff. So I just want to remind people that we do have some great events coming up this year, and I think we're pretty much booked up for most of them. We do have our absolutely incredible Trappers Lake Lodge adventures still available. We have maybe 3 spots left in that, 4 spots maybe left in that. For anyone who is looking to join us out in the field somewhere, shoot alongside us and have some fun, especially in the gorgeous Meeker, Colorado area during peak fall color. We'd love to see you. So check out our website at cowgirlswithcameras.com, navigate to our events page. You can also follow us online. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and we are also now found in our new Cowgirls with Cameras community, which you can find once again at cowgirlswithcameras.community.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Cowgirls with Cameras. Don't let the laughter and learning stop here. Join our community on social media and be sure to visit our website for more opportunities to fulfill your photography goals. Head to cowgirlswithcameras.com. That's cowgirlswithcameras.com. See you next time.